2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
What is required to heal?
Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers.
We're therapists.
And we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin. Man, Tyler, you said that question deep.
Just like with authority, huh?
Well, yeah, you sound like a radio guy. Like, what is required to heal?
It's because I'm sick, so my voice changed.
I like it. You know, that for our listeners, just so you know, that was Tyler.
What is required to heal?
You might have a second career coming up.
I've never really I'm like most people. I've never really liked the sound of my own voice, so it's already vulnerable to do this thing. And then when I'm sick, it sounds even worse.
I want you to do a full episode one day in radio voice. Yeah. Well, Tyler, we have somebody on today that I think is a great person to have this discussion with about what is required to heal. So we have Christy Reeves on with us, and she has both her own personal story of healing, and she also helps others as a coach with their healing and just thriving in life. So she has her podcast called Do the Work. Go check it out. It's awesome. She has amazing guests on her podcast and talks about all kinds of topics that just help you thrive in life. So, Christy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brannon. Glad to be here.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you about is you have come to our Radiant Dawn conference and as a participant, and you had a unique experience, I would say.
Several.
with four-wheeling in my minivan. At the conference.
There's lots of healing happening that day.
Yeah. But I was just wondering if you could give your 2 cents, just a little bit about what that was for you and what that was like for you.
Yeah, I'd love to. I was thinking about when you invited me to come on today, I was thinking about attending that conference. And I had just had, when I was younger, I was diagnosed with lupus and was on different medications that caused me to get skin cancer a lot. And so I had just done a treatment where I put all this stuff on my face and then it literally like pulls the cancer to the surface and then it like peels off. I was remembering. So kind of on short notice, I decided I had filed for divorce maybe a month earlier than when I had thought or had seen. I actually knew about you, Brannon, from the Betrayed, the Addicted, and the Expert.
Uh-huh.
And I think it must have been on that podcast that you had announced that. And anyway, so I didn't organize my life well enough to think I don't want to be going down to this conference, but so I drive down there. I'm a few months from filing for divorce, and my face was full peeling mode. And I walked in to meet so many lovely ladies, but I felt like I went alone, but I felt this desire. I don't know, there's something in me that has always been, I want to move through this. I don't ever want to get stuck. And there's lots of places where I know I have gotten stuck. But when I heard about your conference, I thought I'm going. And I had so many good experiences there. It was very vulnerable for me. And I'm pretty easy in like a social setting, but it felt vulnerable for me in a lot of ways. And some of the experiences I had there were, I still talk about them. I still think about them. I had someone the other day say, I heard you tell the story about throwing the rock. And she said, I just thought, I've got to throw the rock. And so my experience there is now affecting other people as well. And I would recommend it. I would just highly recommend it. That you guys were fantastic. I wanted more of you too. I wanted you guys to teach us and speak to us more. And because to me, I love hearing that, learning that. But the experiences, also it's active, which I think heals our brains and our bodies at times as well. So I really, I mean, I can talk about specific things if you want me to, but
No,
the mere,
that's good.
yeah. Okay.
That's
yeah.
good,
You want me to
Kristi.
tell all the secrets?
Oh,
Okay.
you're fine. No,
You're fine. You're fine, Kristi. No, it's awesome to hear that though, and just to see your face as you're talking about and go, this was a couple of years ago. And not only did you have that experience and it was vulnerable, I love what you said because it's all intended to be that way, but now you've taken some of what you've gleaned and you've allowed it to be a part of this process that you've been on 2 years later. I haven't seen you in 2 years.
No. Yeah.
And, but you're still moving in your own general direction towards the life that you want, that you were designed for. And when you came to the retreat, you were right in the thick of some pretty heavy, hard stuff.
I had been married for 33 years. So to file for divorce felt terrifying. It was something that I thought long and hard about. Yeah.
I remember it being pretty like it was pretty raw and real and right then as you came to the conference. I think the conference was good timing. It was good
I do
timing
too.
for it. Yeah.
I do too.
So what's required to heal? I think about your story with your treatment for bringing the cancers up to the surface and just things being raw, and here I am, and it's kind of a metaphor for healing when it comes to things like betrayal and where you have to kind of pull the pain up and pull the pain out a little bit and see it and feel it and notice it. If you could just give us a little bit of that story, Kristi, and I know you're in your process of healing still, that you're still on that journey and you will be forever. But if you could just tell us a little bit about that journey of healing for you. And it's been a couple of years since you came to the retreat. The healing started long before that. Just kind of tell us some of the things that have been really important for you.
When you connected, oh, jeepers. I'm good at feeling. I just want to give you a heads up. I'm a feeler. But when you connected that treatment for pulling cancer to my face, and that was one of many, many times that I've had that physical experience where there's something in me that will hurt me if I don't get it out. If I just ignore it and keep moving through my life, acting like it's not there, it will eventually, if I let it stay there long enough. And when you just connected that, I have never connected that, but physically, so many times I have consciously put myself in an uncomfortable space so that I can get an outcome that gives me a greater ability to live my life to the fullest. And that is, to me, emotionally. And the beautiful thing about it is you can see it. Like, you can see my face. I'm sure you guys remember my face. Just it does not look good. It comes up, it's all dark and spotted, and then it gets really tight, and then it starts to peel. And emotionally, in so many ways, healing goes through that process over and over again. I just had an experience with my daughter this last weekend where something was brought to the surface. And I don't usually like the bring to the surface part. Like, I want to push against it. I want to say, no, I don't want that. But the beauty that comes when I'm willing to humble. So I would say, first and foremost, humility is required to heal. It's this willingness to look inside myself and say, what is going on inside of me that I responded this way to this person that I love and care about? And so anyway, it came to the surface, we addressed it, but that over and over and over again, if I don't let the pain come to the surface, it's going to change. Literally, my brain is already changed in a lot of ways, but it's going to change me in a lot of ways.
Yep.
I love that idea of it being a cyclical, that, so many people, including me, we want things to be linear. I go through this thing and then I get better and then my life is perfect. And it's more of like, it's a cyclical spiral up. If we allow things to surface and then make peace with them, then we grow, we gain a new superpower, but then we just get ourselves ready for the next iteration of something else surfacing again. And embracing that as part of life, I think, is extremely important. I love that you said that. I'm also thinking too, with what you said, I love that you said humility, because humility says that I accept me as I am. I have these weaknesses, these things coming to the surface, but I also know who I am, and I'm willing to do the learning, right? In the analogy that you're using, I love this. I didn't think of it until Brannon just said it too. How much courage did it take for you as a woman to show up to a women's retreat with your face peeling as a total stranger to 40 other women, knowing what it's like to worry about being judged and fitting in and all of that stuff? And
in the midst of filing for divorce,
in the midst of the emotional hell, right? It's almost like that physical face peeling was completely symbolic of not only to go along with the humility, but true vulnerability. The willingness to actually be seen, to be willing to be seen, hopefully by people who will see through the peeling face and see into the spirit of the person who's working so hard to grow and to heal. And that seems like a really, really important piece of the continuous healing process.
Kristi, I think as Tyler's talking, here you are, it's kind of a pinnacle moment of your face peeling and going to the retreat. But like, I imagine there was a lot of times in the 33 years of marriage where like you weren't willing, where you were pushing against or trying to be in denial, or you bring up your physical body's alerting you like, hello, like there's problems, alarms going off, like, woo, like, hey. And it's like, nope, gonna trudge forward and just move forward. And did you experience that? Did you live in that for a while?
Yes, in so many ways. And I think I didn't know. I remember the first time someone suggested to me that I was controlling. And I'm like, you are crazy, because that's not me. I come from 7 siblings, and I'm like lining all the, what controlling looks like. And I am not at the front of that line. But I had learned how to control in so many ways. And one of them was just like, okay, fix it and move forward. And, almost like I can fix this problem or this experience. And so many times I avoided honest conversations or, I don't know, holding boundaries. I didn't even know what boundaries were for the first 25 years of my life. I didn't know what those things were, but yeah, I avoided, I controlled, I used all kinds of techniques to avoid, having to address my reality. And I think what was maybe a little confusing for me is I also did a lot of work. Like I went to therapy. I did all that I knew how to do. But learning how to separate like maybe my story from my reality, and then to not use those denial strategies in any part of my life, which I do still all the time, but now I'm really conscious of them. Yeah, I avoided. I guess that's the best way to say it. I avoided.
It's interesting what you bring up and the way you bring it up, because I think it's really important to highlight is when I asked you that question, where you went with it was where you were in denial about your part in things. And like where you didn't go is like, yeah, I avoided how horrible he was or how awful the situation was or how no, I avoided listening to my own inner voice. I avoided taking accountability and being humble and the name of your podcast, to do the work, to do your own work that you were being called up to do. And that's what you were in denial about is for a while, until you got out of denial. You let the pain come up to the surface. You started stepping into it. You started facing it. So it's important to note that you're focused on your own realizations, your own self, and what's in your control about moving forward, right? So.
In recovery, especially when like your life all of a sudden is something completely different than you ever imagined it would be, it is so easy to focus on, well, if you'll just change this behavior, then we can be happy. If you will just change, I can be happy. Right. And it took me a long time. And it was confusing for me, Tyler and Brannon, because I really loved my husband. I loved him. I wanted to be married to him. And we had a beautiful family and amazing children. And I wanted to heal. And so I was, for a lot of time, focused on him. And here's all the things. But when I could finally hear, if you can change, I can be happy, that doesn't align with God's laws in any way, shape, or form. That if you show up a certain way, then I can choose to be happy. So yes, I focusing on him, or even I think this applies to all relationships. Focusing on another person's behavior keeps us. That's another way of avoiding looking inside ourselves and saying. In fact, I think that's where addictions and where lots of bad behavior comes from. Is from looking outside of ourselves in any form. So yes.
So if I'm listening to this podcast, Kristi, and I'm trying to piece together principles that we've kind of identified and hit on so far, what I've heard you say is humility. I've heard vulnerability, and now I've heard it, which is interesting that you're saying this coming from the climbing out of the hole of actually going through divorce and being betrayed. You're also saying accountability as not for necessarily your partner's behaviors, but for your own journey and your own happiness. That's the accountability you're talking about.
For all the times I was controlling, for all the times that I avoided, for all of the things I tried to manipulate in my life so that everything would work out okay. There were so many places that I had to look at myself. Yes. Yeah, and I don't like those words, manipulate and control, when they're pointed at me. But honestly, now I don't care. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I really have come to show me where it's at, because I don't want to show up that way anymore. It's still in me,
I
but
love that you can use the word manipulate and control without the judgment that comes with it for so many people. That you're saying that was my way of trying to protect myself and find safety and find happiness, but it was never going to, because I was playing with a set of rules that as much as I did that, I was never going to be happy until he was better.
yeah.
And now you said, oh, I can lay that all down and I can be my best self and I can be authentic and I can be vulnerable and I can be humble and I can take accountability. And that starts to be the pathway into like freedom and healing.
Mhm.
Right. And I'm wondering if we were to keep going, if there's anything else off of the top of your head, or the question is, what is required to heal? And you're sharing so beautifully parts of your own journey and your own insights. Are there other principles there that seem to be pivotal for the process of healing that you're describing?
Yes, and I think there's like layers inside of the vulnerability, honesty, or humility, and honesty is a huge, huge piece for me. Um, Trust is obviously the foundation of any relationship, and even the relationship with ourselves. And until I was willing to get honest with myself, like you mentioned, I think, Tyler, earlier, and I want to say this accurately, but I stopped learning to trust the intuition that was God given to me. That's not good. We are born with this incredible gift of intuition. And when I wasn't willing to be honest about certain things, or humble or vulnerable, and that shows up a lot of times in avoiding conflict, or in just, hoping everything looks great. By the way, I keep giving a thumbs up on the Zoom call because I use my hands when I talk. Okay, I'm sitting on my hands now, but I might not be able to speak as well. Anyway, that was learning, and I am still, what I didn't know was how affected I'll say it, how affected I was in so many ways. I could not even see it until I'm trying to live a life outside of my marriage. How quickly I am to not trust people, how fast I go to, is that really what the reality is? I mean, I Marco Polo'd my friend the other day and said, I'm writing a book, and the title is going to be Alimony Doesn't Pay for All of the Debt. Because all of the emotional, there is no one that can cover that but the Savior, and the humility that's required to go there. So yes, I would say deeper inside of humility and vulnerability is being willing to talk to people, being willing to share with someone, being willing to say, I had this experience, or really, I showed up this way. Can you help me see why? Whether it's a therapist, a good friend, a coach. I mean, there's a lot of ways to work through things, but I don't know. Did I answer your question?
You did.
I think so. I have a question to follow up with that, and I think it could be helpful to kind of hear your process with this, because you're kind of saying, I was being asked to give up my God-given intuition. I was being asked to, I was manipulating and controlling the situation in order to.
And
Go ahead,
I don't
Kristi.
know if I was being asked. I gave it up.
You chose to, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But you were put in a dilemma, and that I see is that we could also say God wants you to stay married. God doesn't want you to get divorced. God doesn't want you to, go through with the family splitting apart. So how do you kind of negotiate? I shouldn't say negotiate. How do you? It puts you in that dilemma of, I either have to sacrifice myself and my truths to keep this family together and not get divorced, versus make that choice to get divorced. How did you handle that, Kristi?
Oh, that.
There's a lot of women, and I shouldn't say women. There's a lot of people in that scenario, right?
So I grew up with. I remember sharing with two women that I really loved that I had chosen to tell David that I was going to get divorced. And one of them said to me, I don't believe in divorce. And she knew my whole story. And she said, well, she knew the public parts of my story. She said, I don't believe in divorce. And I said, I don't either. And that affected so much. Like, that has caused me so much pain. That not her statement, but my belief that I don't believe in divorce. I had made some, and my religion, absolutely, like, I believe in eternal families, and I didn't know how to see forward without this eternal family that I had for 33 years, mostly. Not really, but I wanted to have it for 33 years.
Right.
Anyway, I remember going in my religion, I went up to, so I filed for divorce in January, and we have something called General Conference. And I have a friend that sings in the choir, and they had offered me a ticket to go watch it. And I went by myself up to conference in that April. And I remember driving home, and I remember sitting in that conference and watching husbands and wives walk in, holding each other's hands and their children with them, and just saying, where is my place? Like, what am I doing? And am I okay? Like, do you still love me? Am I okay? But also in a place where I didn't know how to move forward in my marriage any longer. And so that question that you just asked me, how did I do it? I did it because I felt so much peace when I finally made the choice. And I also know that God He would not have us live in a relationship where there is not trust and honor and respect inside of that relationship. I know that, but somehow I felt like the exception to that rule, like somehow I could make it work, And so that's been a really painful place for me, and I still, every now and then, I'm like singing the hymns at church, and all of a sudden, and we're going to be together as a family. And I'm like, boo, like, no, that's not true for everyone. But I also trust God. I trust Him, and I believed with my whole soul. Frankly, I hate to admit this part, but 7 or 8 years ago, I had received a clear move in this direction, and I didn't do it. Yeah, and I did not do it. I didn't want to do it. So that's been probably one of the most painful pieces for me. And again, vulnerability, humility, to let go of my fear of what it means about me, or what others think about me, or, whatever.
It seems that there's a lot that goes into this other piece that you just added, Kristi, and I'm just kind of keeping it organized for our listeners. But you also said that your faith and your wrestle with God is vitally pivotal here when you were answering Brannon's question, because as you are connected to your higher power and you get that sense of peace and groundedness, it allows you to have the courage to step through that fear of, even though it took you 4 or 5 years after getting that sort of conviction to follow through on it, you're way less likely to follow through on it if you don't have the wrestle going on with God, to have the conviction to say, I can act in faith here. This is something that I know I need to do, even though it's scary, rather than I'm just out on my own and I'm mad today, so I'm just going to go get divorced. It was a real wrestle with a higher power until you came to this place of clarity.
Yeah. Yes. And I had to keep coming back to the place of clarity, because my fear, again, I'm driving away from General Conference. What do I belong here? And then the stories and all the things that come from that, I had to keep coming back to the clarity again and again and again, because our human selves, my fear, my pain, whatever it is, I kept attaching stories to what it means about me if I'm divorced, or what, Yeah.
You use the word clarity. You've also used the word peace. And I think your answer is so profound because it's happening in real time here, Christy. I hear you saying I felt peace about moving
I
forward
did.
in that direction while you're in a lot of pain. And so it's like I think a lot of times we expect God to come down and be like, let me take all the pain away so you know exactly what direction to go in. And that's usually not how it works. It's this is going to be painful, but I love you. I'm here for you. You'll feel peace as you step into this. And this is hard. And I can feel your pain today still, Christy. You're still in that pain,
A
right?
lot of work. Yeah.
No, that's okay though. That's where you're at, right?
Yeah.
But if you're able to continue to move forward, continue to be honest with yourself, not like that 6 years ago when you're like, nope, gonna deny that, don't want to look at that, right? But to listen, to feel that clarity, to feel that peace, to step into that pain. Who knows where you're gonna end up? I don't know. I wish I could tell you, Christy. I don't know exactly,
I don't know either.
but you're gonna end up
But
right where you should, right where you're supposed to,
you
right?
know what I can tell you is when I filed for divorce, I could not see. It was black in front of me. And I know that probably sounds silly, but I had had this vision since I met my husband when I was 14, and my brain formed right on him, right with
Mhm.
him. And so when I filed for divorce and he moved out, it felt really dark in front. Like I couldn't see anything in front of me. I
Mhm.
remember, I mean, some of the most, I'll tell you this. I was at church and there was a couple, they were probably in their mid 60s, maybe early 70s, and they were having family dinner. And her husband stood up and he said, someone's like, Dad, are you okay? And he goes, I don't feel good. And he died. He fell down and died.
Oh, wow.
And she was at church a couple of weeks later. And I was just talking to her and I said, how are you doing? I'm so sorry. And she said, it's terrible. It's so hard. And then she said, Christy, where's your husband? I haven't seen him for a while. And I said, oh, Nancy, we're getting divorced. And she grabbed my arm and she said, that must feel like death too. And I said, that's exactly what it feels like.
Mhm.
It's a death, but we don't treat it the same. And I want to say this to every person that listens to your podcast who's going through this. That just because others don't see it as such a big loss. And maybe I know some people are like, yeehaw, I'm out of that marriage. Like I know that this isn't everybody's experience, but it is a huge loss in so many ways. It's a loss of dreams and expectations and so much. So yes, it's
It's
hard.
beautiful, and I'm hearing this, and I'm thinking, principally speaking, there might be people listening to this right now who are getting the peace to stay in a relationship, even though they're going, I don't know if I can hold on much longer. And it's like they're almost faced with the courage to stay, and they're going to be offered learning and growth and whatever else comes that way too. And it'll still be painful, and there will still be loss, and there still will be sacrifice. It's almost like we have to agree that what's required to heal is that there will be pain. Right? Like you can't avoid the pain regardless, but what you can do is work towards having groundedness and peace so that you can make the choices towards the pain that's going to go from being a pain of suffering to a pain of transformation and growth.
Yes, 100 times yes. It was well before I had decided to file for divorce, but I adopted this phrase that pain is a feeling I'm willing to feel. And I didn't have access to that. I had lived much of my life trying to avoid pain. In fact, I remember back in 2002 when I had found out some really painful information. And I was in my closet on my knees yelling at God, you promised if I did this and this and this and this, that I would not have these experiences. Lovingly, he taught me over time. He never promised that I would not have pain ever. That was the story I had made up in my head. What he promised is that he would help me through it, that I could heal from it, that I do not have to be a victim to any of my life experiences. But the story I had told myself is I shouldn't have pain. And the truth that I know without a doubt is the pain actually helps to move me through the process. So, yes, Tyler.
That's beautiful.
It's interesting because it's like a whole paradigm shift I'm kind of hearing that you went through, Christy, of like, it's really going from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset. And instead of operating from a place of I'm building my life into what it should be, you operate from a place of, wow, look at the experiences and the growth that I'm having. And if I can shift myself back into alignment with truth, as painful as that might be, then the growth will be what it needs to be. And so, here you are in your life at this point in your life. If I would have asked you 20 years ago if you were going to be divorced at this point in your life, you'd probably be like, no, like, that's not in the plans, Brannon. Right?
I didn't even consider it. And I
right.
Probably, yeah, I didn't even consider it.
Yet, Christy, here you are with a podcast and a coaching practice and all of this stuff happening, and you're moving forward, and you're a fighter, and you're growing. And so, like, it's not what you wanted it to be, but it's awesome. Like, it's amazing, and it's a miracle in so many ways. If you're able to have that acceptance and that gratitude for the process of growth that you've been in, right?
Yeah, I don't feel, it doesn't feel amazing to me yet, but I am.
I went a little too far. I went a little too far there.
Like, amazing?
Slow down, Brannon.
Stretch, Brannon. Get back in the van. Yeah, no, it feels stretching. It feels genuine. And I feel like I'm aligned. Mostly, not always, but I feel like I'm aligned with who I am and who I really am. And I have no doubt that I'm just a believer that God will take whatever this life has given me and turn it for good. Now, I have to be honest, in my head, that means another happy relationship, and I'm moving forward, and I'm, all the good things that happen. And I'm very aware that that is not reality. That's my story. And so to trust God means I trust all the outcomes, whatever the outcomes are. So yes, I wouldn't say amazing. I'll let you know. I'll send you both a text when it feels amazing.
Christy, you wouldn't say amazing, but all the things that you just listed about your growth and being aligned and is pretty darn amazing, I gotta say. So
thank you.
If it's okay, I want to just tell this one story from the retreat because it applies to these principles a little bit, and it's about the minivan. So, and I want to share this because Brannon just was telling me the story again before you came on today, and there was this one particular part of the retreat where we go out on a dirt road somewhere, and then we take the ladies on a hike, and we have this experience at the end of the hike, and then we hike back out, and this particular time, you guys ended up going completely the wrong way on dirt and sandy roads in a minivan, and ended up like ripping off Brannon's front fender off of his vehicle
and the side one
and the side fender. Yeah. And
it was so bad.
It was terrible, right? Like, and it was the kind of thing where you're out in a dusty, hot desert after a long hike, getting torn apart emotionally because we're doing all these activities with you guys. And all you want to do is get back to the house and have some lunch and maybe relax for a minute. And instead you're stuck in this like minivan with a ripped off fender, four-wheel driving in a minivan. And what Brannon said that I think is so awesome about this is he said, Christy was the one that kept it fun. Like, she laughed, she made comments, she joked about it. Like, it could have been just this like like couple hours of hell in a hot minivan together, and it turned into this like experience of joy and fun, even though it was not the plan to begin with. And you were the one that kind of had that attitude of,
well,
let's
and
joke about it.
Tyler, it's infectious. Remember how, you got the feedback of I got out of my van and there was someone sitting in your car thinking he's going to be pissed and yelling
There
at
was
Tyler.
another lady in my car, and she's like, Tyler's going to turn around and go yell at Brannon, and they're going to have a fight right in front of us. And instead, both of us
got
like
out and
looked at
started
the
laughing.
fender, and we started laughing with each other. We just like ripped the fender off and kept driving. Right?
It's so true. Honestly, it was so funny. And it wasn't just me, but it was, it's just one of those experiences. Like, how do you want to experience this? Yeah, it was so funny.
One of the funniest parts was like the guy driving the Razor that was like, hey, we're like, we're lost. Is it that way? He's like, it's definitely not that way. And so we go that way.
And I
Talk about denial.
It's so true. Yeah, I think we were like saying, no, it looks like it's that way. He probably doesn't know.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
Yeah.
We'll ask him, but we're not going to follow this expert's advice.
The guy in the
know
Razor.
what we're doing. I know.
Yeah. How often do we do that in our lives?
Funny.
Yeah.
So often.
So. Well, Kristi, I just want to say thank you for just hearing your experience and you being vulnerable and talking about your like what you've been through. It's going to be so helpful for other people, especially the ones that are in the thick of it. They know that they're not feeling that peace, they're not feeling that clarity, they don't want to face that pain. To hear it from you and to see you going through this process is so helpful. So I just really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you, Brannon.
Yeah, Kristi, if you wouldn't mind, maybe just one more question. There's a lot of people listening to this who are at different phases of their own journey. I mean, our podcast, what we do is recovery stuff. So there's a lot of people who are sitting in that space of betrayal and trying to figure out how to overcome their healing. Maybe not the tips or the principles, but more so the feeling of what would you say to somebody who's kind of in that dark place that you talked about? What words would you have for them?
I would say you've got this. Like, you're not going to stay. It will not be that dark for long, forever. And if it keeps staying dark, then maybe evaluate the choices that you're making. You mentioned, Tyler, that someone might be receiving revelation to stay and to work. And I am the hugest believer that if two people are willing to do their work, deep work, not just checking the boxes of what recovery, because there's all kinds of lists for recovery, but the deep work underneath the lists, I just believe with my whole soul that you can heal. I believe it. And so I would say you've got this, whichever way you're going. I'd also say I'm on your team. Like, I just believe with my whole soul that if we have people that trust and believe in us and will support us and actually will let us feel all the emotions, I have the greatest friends and family that I can be mad and ticked and sobbing and all the different emotions, and it's okay. Like, no one wants me to, well, my closest ones that I talk with, they don't need me to feel something different. They'll let me feel it so I can heal and move through. They trust that I'm going to move through. And so, I just say you've got this, and there are brighter days ahead. I remember someone saying that to me when shortly after I'd gotten divorced, and this person, they didn't have a crystal ball. They were just a sweet neighbor. I don't have language. Like, there are, because I couldn't see it. So there are brighter days ahead. You've got this, and find support. And ultimately, I believe Jesus Christ is the ultimate counselor. He is the healer. And so for me, healing has come through him while I do all of, I have the community, and I am willing to do my work. So I would invite others to find him and also do their work.
That's beautiful, Christy. Thank you. One more time, just for anyone listening, if they want to get more from you, what's the best way to find you?
So I am mostly on Instagram at Do the Work Podcast, or you can find me at coachchristy.life. That's my website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. For those of you who are listening, if you found this to be impactful, you can reach out, you can send reviews to be able to speak to her. You can obviously go to where she just said. If this is impactful or you know somebody in a tight spot, please feel free to share this episode with somebody who might really be able to need it. Thank you for being with us. And until next time, keep on keeping on.
All right, see you guys.